With a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight as we prepare in the beginning of this Lenten season. We seek that we look at our lives and have identified those areas that we need to overcome, and that with your grace and help we will work throughout this Lenten season to grow closer to our Lord. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So tonight is a class is on sin, temptation, and everyone may be like, oh, there's Eric, he's there to make us feel bad. But I want to start off with thinking like, there's actually good news in the idea of sin. And you may be wondering why. But, so you think about it. So we actually believe that we are responsible for our actions, and when you do something wrong, there's a consequence. And it's kind of like, it's how the normal world works, and how we also view our spiritual life, that if we do something wrong, there's a consequence. But that's actually, there's something good in that. And the reason why I say that is, what that lets us know is, the reason why there's a consequence is because we're the one responsible for choosing it. We're the ones that did it. So if we're the ones that did it, we have the freedom not to do it. We have the ability not to choose it, and we have the ability to change, and be transformed. We're not locked in this way. We're not enslaved by this. And since it's a beautiful thought of, like, we have free will, and it's really up to us of which way we want to follow. And to me, I think that's a great sense of hope, because there's a lot of times we may fall in, oh, I can never overcome this sin because these desires are too strong. Well, no, we can. And to me, there's a great beauty in that. So we're going to focus a little bit tonight of what is sin, its types, the difference between sin and temptation. There is a difference. And then we're going to look at the 7 deadly sins. And the reason why we're looking at all of this is because in Lent we identify those things that we struggle, and it's the hope to help for you to make a good confession, to know exactly what you have to confess and stuff like that. Or if you're being baptized, you need to understand what you're repenting from. And yeah. So what is sin? So kind of like what I was talking about. Sin is us choosing something contrary to what God wants. We call that choice a sin. It's an offense to God because He loves us and He wants us to live a certain way. So He tells us this, and then we decide, you know what? Yeah, I'd rather do this. And since that's what it is. So there's 2 key types of sin. There's a venial sin or mortal sin. So mortal meaning deadly. So there's a deadly sin, something that will really damage our relationship with God. Or a venial sin, something that would wound our relationship with God. And so you may be like, well, isn't an offense to God an offense to God? But I always like to use this analogy. I'm sorry if I've already used it before. But so the whole thing of we can always see our relationship with God analogous to like spousal relationships. It's a common biblical theme. So if I decide to have an adulterous affair with woman X, okay, so would that offend my wife?
Yes.
Yes, it would. I can guarantee it. Goes against my marriage vows, it goes against trust, it goes against a lot. And through my very actions, I'm basically saying, no, I choose this other person. I mean, that's, yeah. Okay. So, would that really damage our relationship? Yes, it would almost put our relationship to an end until we reconciled it. We would have to reconcile that relationship. I would probably have to do severe penance to reconcile that relationship. Many months on the couch. Probably on the floor. I wouldn't even be given the couch. Outside. Yeah. Okay, so we can see that there are some things that we can do that can really hurt a marriage relationship. Okay, so something that I commonly do because I'm just lazy. So a lot of times I don't always do the dishes because there's not many people that like to wash the dishes. Even though studies show that it's actually a very calming and soothing thing to do. I don't know, but like no one really likes to do it.
Wash the dishes.
Yeah. So if I don't wash the dishes and my wife asks me, is that going to end our relationship?
No.
No. So we can see there's this difference.
Unless you also slept with that one.
Yes. Unless that's why I didn't wash the dishes. Oh man. I should never be filming this. We can see that there's a difference in like grave matter. So this is one of the things with a mortal sin. A mortal sin is something of a grave issue. So it's something serious. And so a lot of times people point to the Ten Commandments. If it goes against the Ten Commandments, that's a good barometer. Another one, so you don't try to sit there and figure out, well, I did this, I don't know if it's grave, I don't know if it's venial. Basically, if it weighs on your heart, if you really feel guilty, it's probably something that you need to confess just to make sure. So that's a good litmus test. If you really feel guilty for it, it's something that you need to bring to confession. So mortal sin has to be grave. The other thing is you have to have knowledge that it's truly wrong. So that's kind of just basic law. Like people are held accountable for things that they know that are wrong. If you didn't know that it was wrong, you're not as culpable as, so we call it ignorance. So you have to have full knowledge that what you were doing was gravely wrong. And then you have to have full intent. So you have to willingly choose to do it. You can't be out of pressure or something like that. So, and a lot of times when we do something that we know is wrong and we do it anyway, what happens? We feel guilty about it. And so that's why guilt is a good litmus test of if you've done something. So if you feel really guilty, just bring it to confession. So mortal sin, that's kind of the difference. It's a grave thing done with full knowledge and full intent. All the other things are venial sin. So venial sins wound the relationship. So if I don't listen to my wife, I don't really do what she asks me, I just become lazy, slothful slug. All those things that I do for her because I love her. So if I don't do these little things because I love her, what's going to happen? I'm probably going to fall away to someone else. So the same thing is in the spiritual life. These little venial sins, the only thing that they lead to is mortal sin. So we don't just say, oh, well, this is just a venial issue, don't worry about it. The only way, yeah, so, do y'all understand the difference? Okay. All right, so next is temptation and sin. So this is really good to see the distinction, because sometimes we may think, when we're in a moment of temptation, we may think it's a sin. Actually, some theologies actually believe it's a sin, but as Catholics we don't. So what is temptation? So temptation is anything that would provoke me to sin. So let's say So Friday as Catholics, during Lent, we're not supposed to eat meat. Okay, so I was a German, and we lived on meat, and then something on the side. So that's basically, so it might be a vegetable, it might be a potato, it might be bread, but it was like, meat was like 50% of our okay, so like, I have a great love for meat. So on Friday, let's say we're driving and we go out to eat. I have no idea why, but hypothetical. And someone in front of me orders a wonderful steak. No, let's make this even more, because that's kind of easy. Someone comes up to me and says, Eric, you know what? I want to buy you a wonderful T-bone steak. That is a temptation. Okay. So something's provoking here, or it could be as minute as you're in the office, you don't like Sally. You know Susie definitely doesn't like Sally. And Susie comes and she's like, you know what I heard about Susie? I already got their names mixed up. And so you want to know the dirt on the person you don't like. That's a temptation right there. It's whether you say, oh yes, let me know, and can I tell you? Or it's like, no, I really don't want to hear it. So these are all little temptations. They're things that encourage us to sin. But the thing is, it all depends upon how you act, because the way sin works is we have these things that tug on us. So it could be the steak, it could be the gossip about Sally, it could be if you're the attractive person walking across the hall or something. It could be anything like that. Temptations happen. So they happen. It's now up to you of how you are going to respond. So if you just, okay, there it goes. That's great. Like, that's what we're called to do. But what happens is sometimes we begin to ponder, well, you know, I really don't want to offend this person that's offering me this steak, and we begin to try to think about, and then then we make the choice. Yeah, I will definitely take this steak, or you know what, I want to hear the juicy gossip about Sally, or yeah, I'm going to continue to look at that person as they walk away. All of those are us then choosing to engage in that temptation. And that's when we call it a sin, because a sin is something we choose. It's not something that happens to us. It's not a passive event. It's something that we actively choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we don't believe that the passive event that's happening to us is a sin. The only time that becomes a sin is when you put yourself, it's called in the occasion of sin. So let's go back to Susie. Poor Susie. Or is it Susan? I forgot. Or Sally. But let's go with Bill now. Okay. So, sorry, Bill. Paul, Eric. So, we don't like Eric over there. And we know that this table right here, sorry guys, y'all don't like Eric either. And we know, you know what, they don't like him. And I have some really juicy information about Eric. I know they're going to be talking about him. It would not be wise for you, if you know that you struggle, to join their conversation. So you're putting yourself in the occasion of sin. Or another thing is, let's say, the fact of I'm not supposed to eat meat on Friday. Well, so I probably shouldn't go to the Texas Roadhouse to eat dinner. I'm putting myself in the occasion of temptation. So.
Would that be a sin of the flesh then?
So sin of the flesh is anything that's satisfying your carnal desires. So that could be any of those pleasurable events. That's why it's really good to identify, okay, so what do I struggle with? And what's the things that are causing me to do this, and trying to prevent yourself. It's kind of like it's a little spiritual game plan of how to prevent yourself from getting in these situations. Because the thing is, we are weak. We're weak people. We need God's help. And so some of the good things are not to put us in a bad situation. Okay, so does that make sense? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take a drink because I'm thirsty. So I want to go into the 7 deadly sins, and you may be like, okay, why the heck are we going like? So this is where the guilt comes. Thank you, Eric. Okay, but the real reason why we want to go over this is a lot of times we think of sin as like these rules. Okay, so don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. But you'll see, we want to go into the 7 deadly sins because you see what they are like, they're bad habits. They're really bad habits that are roots to other sins. And so it's good to identify these roots and see which ones you struggle with, because the idea is we don't want to just look at these rules. I need to follow these rules. We need to live this certain type of life, and it's a life of virtue. And this is why it's so beautiful thinking of like it's our choice, and it's our choice of how we want to live. Do we want to be a virtuous individual, or do we want to struggle with vice? And it's up to us which life we want to live. And Christ wants us to be virtuous. He wants to be a heroic saint. That's what he's calling all of us to be. And it's depending upon us what we want to choose. So we'll focus on these vices. Next week we're going to go over confession. And the following week we'll go over the life of virtue. this idea of what we're called to live. So the 7 deadly sins. So the first one is pride. So what is pride? And a lot of people say pride is the root of all sin. It's an overesteeming of oneself. And you can see this at the very first sin with Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve, God told them to do like a couple of things. Don't eat from the apple, be fruitful, multiply, take care of the garden. That's pretty much it. This serpent tricks them and basically makes them think, okay, one, that God's holding something back, but they're basically saying, you know what? We kind of have we have the ability to choose what we want to do, to know good and evil. It's a sense of pride, of overesteeming that, you know what, I know the way to do this. And just to step back, who made us? God. Okay, so when you think about, no, don't laugh. Oh dear. So I have a semi-smartphone. Okay, so on my semi-smartphone, because it does this. It's semi-smart. Okay, so with my semi-smartphone, if I don't know how to use this, who do I ask?
Your children.
No, not mine.
That's who I ask.
I have it, you say, God, help me do this. Go to the owner's manual.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna ask Samsung in the owner's manual because they made it. They don't know how to use it, right? Hopefully they wrote the user manual so that we can read it. But yes, who made it? So the same is with us. So who made us? God. So how do we work? How do we know what is best for us? Through God. So whenever we try to say, you know what, I think I know what's best for me in this decision. It's a sense of pride. We're estimating who we are.
Hey, Eric, isn't it interesting that whenever you start suffering from pride, that almost one of the very first things that you do is like self-justification? It doesn't matter what your vice could be or your temptation could be, like the steak, you could have easily, and the longer you take to say no, the more justification comes into your mind. So if you're able to just rapidly say no and walk away, you're less likely to commit the sin.
So one of the virtues that go against pride is humility. So humility is one of the key virtues in the Christian life, and it's one of the. It's not a degrading of self. I think that's a key. So pride is the overseeing of oneself, but the church doesn't call you to do the opposite. So just degrade yourself. No. Christianity is about truth. It's just about being honest about yourself. You can be good at something. You can actually be good and acknowledge it. You know what?
Overcoming pride is humility. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, working on humility. And it's just acknowledging who you are. So it's not self-deprecation. Oh, I'm a horrible individual. I can't do anything right. Therefore, I'm humble. No. It's just acknowledging the gifts that God gave you and the weaknesses that you have. Now the thing that stinks is the best way to grow in humility is being humiliated. I mean, it's not fun, but like, and accepting it, just like, yeah, because usually when we're humiliated, we think that we have X gifts, and we really don't. And it's laid out for all to see, and yeah, it's humiliating. But that's one ways of growing in humility. So that's one of the one of the 7 deadly sins. We all struggle from it. The next one would be greed. So this is an over-excess desire for material things. So again, material possessions are not bad. We'll see that all of this is overly excess. And so the Christianity is all about truth, not about just doing the opposite. So the opposite of greed is not like, oh, well, I must give up everything and have nothing. Few are called. St. Francis did that, but like, you do have to eat tomorrow, so that means you do have to own something to eat tomorrow. Yeah, but we've kind of gone over that. So, but the thing is, we're not supposed to, when we're greedy, we're usually attached to these material things. We think that they'll give us happiness or something like that. And they never really do. They never fully satisfy. So just being detached from the material world and seeing that these material possessions are just here for the betterment of all. And we've kind of went over that in Catholic social teaching. I'm not going to dive more into that. But yeah. The next one is envy, and this one's actually interesting because envy's, I put jealousy there, but it is somewhat different than jealousy, because to want something that another has is not a technically bad thing. And the reason why I say that is, let's take the saints. Do we want to have a virtue that the saints would have? Yeah. So we can't say that we are jealous. That's wrong. Well, even that, like, you know what? I'm pretty sure that the people that don't eat dinner would want the food that we have tonight. I'm pretty sure they're very jealous about the food that we have tonight. So what is it? How do we distinguish this? So when it goes into the idea of envy, is when we have this an excessive desire where we actually will or hope for or think of a badness upon the other. So let's say, let's get in the job world. So I want this promotion, and me and Susie. Yes. Well, yeah, poor Susie. I don't know what I'm gonna happen if I ever get someone in here by the name of Susie. We both won this job. We both, or this promotion. Okay, so for me to want that, is that wrong? No. Okay. For me to hope that Susie does not get it, or that Susie makes a fool of herself at the next board to willfully to will something ill upon her is when it becomes envious. So when we, or if, let's say Susie got the promotion and I didn't, and I hope that Susie then fails at it, or since Susie bought a new car, I hope it tire blows out or something like that. All of those are is when it becomes very envious. Yeah, and because a lot of times we can, I don't know, maybe this is just me, and you can now think horrible about me, but like I'm a competitive guy, and so like my friends, I always have to try to catch myself, because I usually don't care about most things, but like I do find myself getting competitive with like, oh well, they're able to do this for their kids, or do that, or they got this. Oh, who cares? Like, but I can fall into that. I always have to, and what I'm doing is I'm falling into envy. Like, yeah. So it's a okay. Yeah.
Would it be considered envy, like, with me and my ex-husband, buying presents for my daughter? It's like, for a while, like, I fell into this thing where we had to top each other. Like, that would be jealousy, wouldn't it? That would be
Yeah, I mean,
doing a present.
Oh, that'd be pride.
I just wouldn't do it. I'm not even trying to, yeah, but never try to like, yeah, it's a false competition. And so, yeah, we've all fallen into it. That's the beauty of welcoming. That's really the beauty of like the Mass, you know? Like we start off with the Mass and what do? I confess, yep, we're all sinners. Here we are, we're all in this together. I mean, that's kind of how we start out Mass, because, yeah, it's just part of our, yeah, we all struggle. So, speaking of that, anger. So anger, yeah. So anger, wrath. So this can be like an outburst. So the lack of like self-control or patience to just explode. A lot of that time is we like harness things and we don't say anything, and then it builds up in us, and then like something that has nothing to do with it causes it to explode, and then you look like an idiot. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but anger is just our desires overcome us, and we yeah, explode, yeah, in some form of outburst. It can be yeah. I think the other thing is that anger can also be like towards oneself. It doesn't have to be like yelling or something like that, but it can be a silent anger where we hold grudges and we don't talk. People deal with anger in different ways, but the thing is a lot of times the thing to overcome it is forgiveness, patience, self-control. Yeah. I was going to say something else, but it left my head. Oh well. Oh, that's the thing. Anger isn't always wrong if it's just justify anger, and really the best way to see that is if sometimes if an injustice is happening to someone else, you can be angry. Like the fact that there's people out there that don't eat who could rightly anger you, and that's justifiable that someone would get angry about that. Okay, so patience, forgiveness. The next one is lust. So if that would be the allowing the sexual desires to overcome one. So you're using someone or something to fulfill some desire or fantasy, and that's always wrong. I think that the key is love all of those natural passions with the or sexual passions are geared to love and giving oneself. Like, and that's basically what the marital act is. One spouse is giving themselves, to the other. It's a very personal act. And that's why it's supposed to be in the context of marriage, of where people have made vows to, I give myself to you and only you and no one else. And then it's lived out in the marital life. But so that's basically what chastity is. It's controlling the sexual desires to that. And the reason why I bring this up is a lot of times we all know the things that the church is against and outside of marriage, so adultery, fornication, pornography, stuff like that. But even within marriages, one can fall into lust. And I think that's key to realize that spouses can't use each other. That makes sense. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. Like, just because you married someone doesn't mean that you can, use them. Yeah. Okay. So next one is gluttony. So that's a lack of self-control and other bodily desires. So a lot of times what we do is we can overeat because food is so good. Oh my goodness, especially now. Like they make, it's amazing. Like, have y'all ever thought, okay, so I'm not going to say that McDonald's is great, because usually after I eat it makes my stomach turn. But, like, you guys, it's quite remarkable that in America, we can make a hamburger cost $1. You can buy a hamburger for $1. To me, it's fascinating. You're not quite sure what's in that hamburger, but like we are bombarded with like food, and it's not all good for us, but man, does it taste good. So gluttony is overindulging because so what is food for?
Substance.
It's for substance. Yeah, it's for our nourishment. That's what it's for. So like whenever we misuse food for just And that one's just tough because again, like I said, food just tastes so good.
What about feasts and things like that?
What?
What about when the people have feasts?
So like Thanksgiving, where like we all get together, watch football, and eat until we want to throw up. It's quite an interesting one. It's an interesting phenomenon. Like you think about, there's not many places in the world where people get together and eat until they can't eat no more. Obviously, like gluttony is a vice, which means it's a habitual thing that one's doing. But to have the self-control, and you can see the wisdom of the church. So the church calls for the faithful to fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And so fasting is eating one meal and then eating 2 small meals. And it's weird. I have no idea. I was talking to one of our people at the church, Patrick, about this. So we all, if you work like a busy life and sometimes you just skip lunch because life is busy, and like it doesn't really bother you. But then when it becomes a fast day and you know that you can't eat lunch that day, like it is difficult. Like, I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. But you can see why the church will require people to fast. What is it doing? It's making you say, you know what, I want to go and eat something, but I willingly choose not to. And you grow in self-control. So the same thing is on Friday. So Friday that we don't eat meat, because meat is awesome. Again, I have no idea why some people don't like meat. I'm sorry if you don't like meat. I enjoy meat. It's the beauty of the Catholic Church. We can do whatever we want in the norms of the church. But so the church requires people not to eat red meat on Friday. So we have to figure out what to do, and it should be a thing of growing in self-control. So we don't go, hey, let's go to Red Lobster and get a lobster tail, because that's kind of defeating the purpose. Even though I've never eaten lobster, but I'm guessing it's good. I don't know.
It is.
I'm missing out. Well, I'll keep on missing out. I love my written read. But you can see that fasting is a good way to gain self-control. So lastly is sloth. And this is just sheer laziness. And so laziness doesn't just mean like work, because a lot of times we can be very diligent at work, but it could be that. But we could be slothful in our spiritual practices. So, you know what, I'm tired at night. I really don't, I'm gonna just go to bed tonight. I'll do my night prayer routine, or I woke up and I'm gonna hit the snooze, forget about the waking up early and doing a morning prayer or anything like that. Or whatever our practices are, a lot of times we can fall into spiritual sloth. And that's so again, the church calls us to live out the virtues of perseverance. So persevering through those times when things are difficult and not falling back into laziness, because everyone knows idleness is the devil, or the devil's workshop. There we go. And it's true. Like usually, if I don't have anything to do, nothing good happens. Or the whole phrase, nothing good happens after midnight, because there's usually nothing to do. Now that doesn't mean like restfulness is wrong, and that's key, because God calls us to rest on Wednesday, but just sheer vegging out is, So the other virtue is called magnanimity. Has anyone ever heard of this word, magnanimity? Okay, some people, I remember when I first came across it, I was like, okay, one, that's a huge word, and I had a very small vocabulary. But when I found out about it, it's basically like being the best of yourself, in a sense, and it's like a call to greatness. Like, I'm going to be the best person I am. It's a virtue of magnanimity. So overcoming sloth. And you can see how magnanimity and humility work together. Humility, you acknowledge who you are. Magnanimity, you become the best version of that. Because let's just face it, I'm not going to be a pro athlete, okay? We can all acknowledge that, like that's not my strength, but I have other strength. So, yeah. So, last week, so we've gone over this, we can kind of identify some issues in our life. So how do we overcome it? So, one, seeking confession. So if you're baptized, like we've always said, you can always go to confession. I know some of y'all already have, but we always have to make one good confession before we receive the sacraments. So next time we're going to go over how to go to confession. The other thing is identifying, so where are those occasions of sin that I need to remove myself from or not put myself in? And what spiritual practices can I do to find the strength to overcome these? And one of the best ones, and it's in the church's liturgy of the hours, is when you go to bed at night, do an examination of conscience. It's one of the best practices to do. So just before you go to bed, think, okay, so what did I do good today? Okay, what did I not do so good today? God, I'm sorry for what I did wrong. Or you can pray a formal act of contrition and go to bed. It's one of the best practices that you can do, because you can see those struggles. Yeah, I really need to work on this. This is something each time I go to bed, I'm always realizing I'm doing X. I'm getting angry at blah, 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 or I'm talking about blah, 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 or I'm looking at blah, 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 or whatever it is. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
We call them 7 deadly sins. We're talking about venial and mortal. So are these 7 deadly sins all mortal sins, or can they be venial?
Well, when they're referring to deadly, they're referring mostly that they're roots to other sins, and they're not like. It's more of a cause of sin. So someone that is commits. Let's just take envy. Okay, so I'm envy. I'm envious of blank of. Oh gosh, Susie. I need you, Susie. Gotta get more names of Susie. And Susie has a lot of money. Right? So this envy causes me, let's say I'm gonna steal something from her. Okay? So if I steal $10 from Susie, is that the biggest deal? Let's say Susie's she has a lot of money. Is that the biggest? Is that a grave issue? Probably not. I don't know. But if I steal like $100, like $1,000 from her, or I break into her bank account and transfer, I don't know, $25,000 or that, like we then get like a serious grave issue. I don't know if that's. I think, and when we go into confession, you'll see the church asks people to confess number, so to the best of their abilities. So like, how often? So if it's like many or few, that's or if you can get an exact number, 7 or 20. And then, so it's number and kind, or to the gravity. So is it $10 or 25,000? And the reason why the church asks for people to confess that is so that the priest can get some understanding of, one, is this a horrible habit or a slip up? And two, how grave of an issue this is.
So like if you
he's just being rude, so if you commit that sin and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you go and you confess it again and again and again.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm gonna just be honest. There's venial sins I always confess.
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, there's just stuff that I suck at overcoming. I just do. Like in some months I go into confession feeling really good because I don't have to confess as much. And there's other months where I'm dragging myself in because I'm afraid of what Father might tell me. And this is, okay, so this is, okay, so this is how Catholics like backdoor things so that they don't get caught. And this is a bad practice to get in. So this is why I go to the same confessor. So that I have a confessor that knows what I'm doing each time. So that they can call me out and say, okay, you've been confessing this a lot, you really need to work on this, because
And
I
you
always,
have it, and
yeah. But,
right?
yeah,
Now you knew it was wrong, and you still did it again and again and again.
yeah, but okay, so that's where the gravity comes in. So, like, okay, so sorry, here I am. I'm a horrible person. So anger, like I struggle with anger, okay? So that's just something that I struggle with. So I confess that frequently. And like I said, sometimes I do better, sometimes I don't. And obviously it's a thing that I'll probably always struggle with. But just because now how I express my anger is going to determine if it's a grave issue or a venial issue. If I just have, like, I don't know, small random outbursts, that's fine until I don't know, I start throwing stuff or hitting or something horrible like that. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay.
I have a question. Like say give up cussing for Lent,
Yeah.
and let's say you slip up and say, F you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, what is like? Does that
Okay.
mean completely failed, or is that what does that mean exactly?
Okay, that just means that you've fallen.
Do you need, well,
I mean, like,
do you stop and ask for forgiveness right away?
yeah,
Or?
yeah. If you can, I mean, the worst thing that you can do. Again, here I am. So I'm gonna just tell you as someone that's been trying this. The worst thing to do, because this is where I struggle. So I'm trying to overcome X. I'm walking along, okay, I'm doing good. Okay, now I just stepped in the mud of doing whatever I'm struggling. So that's a good thing to do. What you should do is, oh God, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And if it's a serious thing, try to get the confession. What not to do? This is what I also get. Oh gosh, I'm horrible. God's never going to, I'm such a screw up. Man, I can't do anything right. And I, like, literally, I'm like, I don't even want to go to confession. I already know what Father's going to think of me. Oh my God, I can't. That's called despair. And because what you're doing is you're not believing in God's mercy and forgiveness. So, yeah, what you should do is, so you stepped in it, okay, everyone steps in it. So, I'm sorry, God. And then if it's something serious, go to confession. If it's not, move on. Because the interesting thing is, despair is actually a way the devil keeps you from asking for God's mercy, forgiveness.
There is this, you explained, and I understand venial and mortal sins, which are sins that will separate us and remove us from God.
Yeah.
Is there a sin that's unpardonable, though, that's unforgivable?
Yeah, and it's it's despair. That's it. Like, God won't forgive me. Because what despair does is God will always forgive you. But if you fall into despair, what are you doing? You're not seeking forgiveness. And so God cannot forgive what one is not asking for forgiveness. And
The Old Testament's the story of David, who of course not only engaged in sin of lust, but also
Yeah.
murder, because he's involved in both.
Yeah.
It seemed like God said that he would be in a place where he'd be punished, but he would eventually be released. That God gave him hope. There was no despair.
yeah,
There was consequence, but there wasn't despair.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there is no sin that God can't forgive, except the sin of not asking for forgiveness.
That's that one last question. What does the word mortification mean?
Mortification. Okay, so mortification is an act of penance upon oneself. So never do it. Well, I mean, okay, so fasting is a form of mortification. So I mean, there is a sense of mortification. So what you're doing is you are inflicting something upon yourself to gain in self-control. So I'm going to do something unpleasurable to myself, such as fast, right? That's not fun because you have hunger pain, to gain in self-control. That I can choose something beyond what my bodily desires are telling me to. So yeah, don't whip yourself or something like that. Yeah, lay on a bit of nails or I don't know. But I mean, there's other forms of mortification, like kneeling. Okay, kneeling is not fun, but I mean, you can go to adoration and decide to sit and adore God or kneel. And I mean, kneeling again isn't enjoyable. It's not. I mean, I don't find it very. That can be a form of mortification, or yeah. You can do little acts. You know what? We have cookies tonight. I really like cookies. I'm not going to eat a cookie tonight. Right? And there are very small acts of mortification one can do. Yeah. Because cookies are...
Getting something up for Lent that you really like, is that mortification?
In a sense, yeah. Giving up something for one is an act of mortification. I mean, it's a very small act, but like, I don't know, you may have given up Facebook, TV, chocolate. I mean, you don't pick something that you don't enjoy. You pick something that you enjoy, and you give it up. It's a form of mortification. Yeah. Okay.